think I'm going to have to do something very uncomfortable. And it's going to be a series of videos. I don't know when I'll get to them, when I'll post them. This will probably be the first. But I might try to collect some thoughts beyond this video before I post it. We'll see. So this topic is one we gotta address head on. And it is heresy. Heresy is, I think, the most important thing that we have to talk about. If we care about bridging gaps between people and finding peace, it is going to take heresy to do that, because we are in a place right now of conflict and war and separation, and heresy is not it's not what a lot of people think it is. Heresy is, you can look up definitions. I didn't memorize the definitions for this video, but look at what it means to be a heretic or to have heretical ideas, and defining that word, and you'll see it's not a negative word. It's not a word that denotes a negative or evil concept. It's a very positive word. It's used in a positive context in many ways. The evolution of faith and religion that has been happening all throughout mankind is a story of heresy. It is the idea you fully believe. Conflicting thought a lot of times compared to old ways of thinking, but any new idea is a heretical idea when compared to the old way of thinking. So the history of humanity and our spiritual journey, our histories of all religions, those are histories of heresy. Those are not histories of people believing the same thing generation after generation. It is a progression of thought, a maturity of spiritual understanding, and that is possible through heresy. So I think we need to make a case for heresy, not against heresy, and look at belief and faith in that light. The very idea of light shining on truth and understanding, knowledge, that the whole concept of light coming to people who live in darkness is the definition of heresy. And many times the way that is accomplished is through new ideas, and many times it is accomplished through the rediscovering of lost ideas. The reason rediscovering lost ideas is a key part of spiritual growth is all throughout history, again, across all religions, there are censorship campaigns between the old believers against the new believers. This is obviously something that would happen naturally based on what we understand about human nature, that those who believe they hold truth and power and control do not like to hear truth that conflicts with their truth. It is impossible to call those truths that conflict with their understanding of truth anything but a lie or a negative definition of heresy. But that's just how old thinkers view heresy. The new thinkers, the new ideas, those people who find truth, shedding light on an old idea, bringing it back out of the darkness to show it to other people, or truly fresh, divining inspiration that is delivered as a new truth. We're constantly dealing with both of those things as threats to old ideologies, old ways of thinking. So whether you're talking about heresy as a new idea, a new inspiration from Creator to humanity, or an old idea that was censored, those arguments for heresy are very, very strong, historically speaking. There's no person of faith who doesn't believe heresy. The reason they are not the member of an older faith or an older belief system is because they believed in heresy. So we have to look at this word not as a signal of a teaching or a belief that is somehow from the darkness or from the evil one, or something to be avoided. The idea of heresy is directly connected to light, truth, and new understanding. So when we stop seeking the light, when we stop seeking understanding, we stop speaking to God directly and asking for answers. That's when we run into problems, and we settle for dogma instead of settling for truth that you find through heretical ideas, heretical beliefs, heretical books. Those wisdom teachings that you find within the heretical are now and have always been the sources of light. That's going to be really tough for some people to hear, and yeah, I guess I'll look at how this video performs to see who sticks with watching this video from this point forward. Because as I understand it, most people have been indoctrinated to believe that the heresy tag is a stop sign. It is a red light, and it is a do not enter sign to most people. And I understand why. I felt that way for most of my life too. That was what I was taught to believe. But it makes no sense logically that actually is the truth. That seems to be a tool or a weapon in this spiritual battle that would be used by the forces who do not want truth to be known. There is no better way of fighting against truth than declaring truth to be falsehood and declaring it to be evil, and somehow convincing people that the pursuit of truth is dangerous in the sense of what can happen to your soul. It's a great strategy that the dark forces of the world use to hide truth, is to wrap it in this word heresy and then deem it of such an extremely dangerous nature that even looking at that truth exposes you to a risk of damnation. It's tragic and funny, comedy and tragedy, do tend to exist in the same narratives in some of our greatest stories. And what has happened to the message of Jesus is tragic. But you do have to almost laugh it off, or it would be so overwhelmingly painful that you'd be paralyzed by the grief that you'd feel toward the message and teachings of Jesus if you couldn't laugh about just how tragic it is that his teachings have become the most feared heresies in his church. I'm gonna have to do a series of videos to really dig in and explain that. But as a declaration of my beliefs, I believe that viewing the teachings of Jesus as heresy is a great injustice that the believers of Jesus are committing against other believers of Jesus. I believe it is a gross injustice and misuse of power against the people who seek knowledge and understanding of Jesus and his message. So I've said before that this is an amazing opportunity to live in this time. But I'll just reiterate, we live in a time where finally freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom of information all coexist in a way that the message of Jesus can finally be released from this heretical prison that it's been placed in for the last 2,000 years. So I would encourage believers, from devout Christian believers all the way to spiritual but not religious people who have a sense of the greatness of this existence and the greatness of a creator, a source that we all come from. If you believe in those concepts of God or creator, that we are all a part of this, and that there is a fundamental truth to it all, then that pursuit of truth is very important to our purpose. You do not want to live a purpose that is a lie. You do not want to follow a belief that is incorrect. We have a natural instinct as humans to know more so that we can live rightly and make right decisions. Not everybody has that instinct. It's a spectrum, and there are human beings who have none of that in them. But those are psychopaths and sociopaths. They have a different way of functioning than most people. For most people, this pursuit of knowledge and understanding and seeking truth is just an inherent quality, and it's a good quality. So that quality comes from the creator that is woven into our very nature. It is part of our structure. It is part of what makes us different. It's part of what allows consciousness to wake up and set us apart from the rest of the creation. It's this ability to seek and understand, contemplate exactly where we fit in it all. So this gift of consciousness that we have, and the piece of that gift that is this seeking, that is not the problem. That is not what we need to put down in order to please God or the Creator. God does not ask us to stop seeking a closer relationship to the Creator. That is antithetical. That is not true. So yeah, I believe there is a strong case for heresy. Historically speaking, and in this moment, at this time, the gatekeepers, it's terrifying. The power of this word heresy is waning. They are losing the ability to control. And that's happened many times in the history of the Christian church and in the other faiths. And sometimes it leads to branches of the tree. Sometimes it leads to the tree expanding, getting stronger, growing larger with this new branch. And other times it's an entirely new tree that comes out of these things. So I have some news for Christians that may be shocking news. And that news is that there is this new tree of the Church of Jesus. This is not a seed or even a sapling. This church that is growing up around the teachings of Jesus is already firmly in place with deep roots in strong soil, and that tree is, you're either going to have to cut it down or you're going to have to watch it grow and flourish. And but I do not believe this tree can be stopped at this point. This tree doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a title. Thank God for that. It is not Christianity. It is not Islam. It is not Judaism. I'm not looking to give it a name or even give it a very strong description. But if you just look at who is talking and what is being said and who is listening, how is that actually happening in today's world? You can see this tree is very well nourished. The number of incredible philosophical, spiritual, devoted human beings who are doing the work to nourish this tree, grow this tree. It is so much more than what Christians understand, and we have to start talking about what it is and what is happening, or it's going to be very confusing going forward when members of these two congregations try to speak to each other. Keeping good open dialogue and a focus on shared beliefs is how you navigate these new times. historically, sometimes we've been able to pull that off. But historically, unfortunately, the lessons of history is that these massive schisms that happen in the church, in the church in the Jesus context, the way Jesus talks about the church. He uses a lot of tree imagery. Unfortunately, historically, we have chosen to go to war and try to chop down these other trees. And many times that's been successful. Entire trees have been chopped down. But I don't see that happening this time. I don't see either side destroying the other side. Again, I think we've evolved far enough in our beliefs to avoid that. But it's time to acknowledge this other tree. Even if this tree is growing out of what you consider to be heresy, it is unstoppable because of the soil that it has taken root in. This is good seed falling on good soil, and it is growing. So yeah, the church with no name, the religion with no name, the Jesus believers without a dogma, without a name, without a religion. It's the most diverse group of Jesus believers in the history of the Jesus movement. It's one of the most eloquent, one of the most charismatic. It is one of the most powerful. The mediums through which this church is communicating, the number of followers that this church is growing. It is a revival unlike anything that was ever witnessed in the Protestant Reformation or in our country, where revival has been such a powerful cause for change. Do not be afraid. This revival is not going to ruin anything. But it's a revival of the rest of the Jesus story, and it cannot be contained any longer. So you can either continue to label it as heresy and accept these do not enter red lines, stop signs. You can either accept that that's what's going on, that this is all from the devil, and look to destroy it, which leads to war. Or you can seek to understand it and see truth for what it is. So the chances of me somehow being involved in that, yeah, maybe that's all I'm supposed to do, is just to make sure people on this side, the Christian side, know that this is happening. I'm not seeking to convert anybody over there. There is no church to convert into. Don't worry. Nobody's trying to steal you away from your church and destroy what you've built, your family's built, your spiritual leaders have built. This is not a charismatic movement to take you away. But I think it's important for Christians to be aware of this and understand what is happening. And I think once that does happen, you'll see Doris peace and love for your neighbor and love for God, and forgiveness, and very little judgment coming from this new tree. There's flawed people that are part of this new movement, that are part of that tree, and they're growing in their spiritual maturity. So some of them have not tackled this judgmental nature as much as others have. So they may say some things that Christians find offensive from time to time or judgmental from time to time. But I can assure you, the majority of the judgment and offensive discussion is coming from the Christian side. As somebody who's lived in both these worlds, I can clearly see and hear what both sides are saying. And both sides could do better. We'll just leave it at that. So, heresy is here. Heresy is coming. Heresy is threatening. It always has been. But heresy is just light being shown that conflicts with dogma. So we can accept the fact that heresy exists, and if you can just pray on it, if you're a person of faith, pray on it and ask for direction. Don't give God your belief or your instruction. Ask for direction. Ask what you should do. Follow your heart. Follow the guidance of the Spirit. It is real. It exists. I believe in the Holy Spirit that the Christians believe in, and that Holy Spirit is not saying close your eyes and ignore the teachings of Jesus. It is saying open your eyes and accept the teachings of Jesus. So yeah, I will listen, and I will try to keep the courage that it takes to say those things out loud and identify myself as a heretic. So thanks for sticking around if you made it through that. I'll make a few videos in the coming weeks or months discussing the details of the heresy and making it approachable for people of faith. And then you can choose to pray on it and see if you're called to learn more. If you're anything like me, you will be urged to learn more.